Hi everyone, my name is Jonathan and I have 6 months to live. Well, not really, but maybe, who knows. Today I'm going to continue with my book, The Tree of Happiness. In the previous videos I talked about the importance of filling up multiple buckets at once, talked about patching up the holes to help us fill the buckets faster, and I talked about lowering expectations so that you can be happy right away. Now the next few videos I'm going to talk specifically about the 5 areas of our lives: health, relationship, finance, pleasure, hobby, and spirituality. Today I'm going to talk about the finance bucket. The finance bucket represents everything we own, everything we have that can trade off for monetary value or for labor or for other assets. It's money, cryptocurrency, savings, and even our intellectual property. Our brain is part of our assets bucket or financial bucket. I'll start by talking about ways to fill your financial bucket. Imagine faucets opening up to flow financial energy into your financial bucket. And there are different types of faucets. The first type is called a direct flow faucet. A direct flow faucet is a 1-to-1 ratio of how much time you put in to work and how much you get paid. So an hourly wage or even a salary is a direct flow faucet. When you work at a job and you get paid for the time that you clock in and out, or a monthly salary, that is direct flow. Direct flow faucet correlates directly with how much time you work. And this type of faucet flow is the least efficient because it requires you to put in X amount of time to get paid X amount of money. The next type of flow is called a multi-flow faucet. Multi-flow faucet is when you work a certain amount of hour, but you get paid multiple times that hour. Example would be if you manage multiple employees and your pay is connected to how well they do. So when you work 1 hour and you have 5 employees, you also get paid for a portion of their 5 employee salaries. Another example is if you have your own store or restaurant or business and you're owner operated and you work the whole day and you have employees that work and make money for you. That is multi-flow faucets because your time gets back multiple units in return. The next level of flow is called a continuous flow. Continuous flow is when you do something to start the flow of the faucets, but then you don't have to do anything else. An example would be starting an investment account, savings account, or even if you hire a money manager or someone to invest the money for you, or you have real estate that earns residual income, or some sort of business that have residual income that you only have to work at in the beginning and then it works itself for you. You have people, friends, managers working for you. Those are all examples of continuous flow faucets. Continuous flow faucets are usually what really wealthy people have because the money makes for them. They make money while they sleep. They only have to start in the beginning and then the rest gets taken care of for them. And then the last type of flow is called a gift. A gift is when somebody pours their financial bucket into yours in the form of a gift. They give it to you and you don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything to start it and you don't have to do anything to maintain it. Some examples are probably, I guess, lottery winners, or if you're born into a wealthy family, or if for some reason somebody decides to gift their assets to you, give you a car, even money, whatever. Or even if you ask for it as a loan and you don't pay back, that's a gift. So with those types of flows, the ones that require the least amount of work for you is obviously the gift. But gifts don't come that easy and they're not sustainable. And then the ones that require the most amount of work are direct flows. Direct flow faucets are when you clock in and clock out, you work for someone or you work for yourself but have no employees. And then in between, multi-flow and continuous flow. We all have to start out, well, I'd say most of us have to start out with direct flow sources of income. But if you work hard enough and if you find ways to plug in the holes in your buckets, then you can fill up your bucket slowly, and then you can afford to start multi-flow buckets or multi-flow faucets in the form of a business or in the form of getting a promotion to the point where your salary depends on people under you, or starting your own business. Same as continuous flow. Continuous flow faucets require investments to start out, so it requires you to have a certain amount of assets to start out with. So you have to start out with direct flow sources of income. Some people may find multiple jobs to increase their direct flow, but they're still direct flow because they have to put in the amount of time to work. So I hope you understand the different types of flow into your financial faucet or bucket. Now we're going to talk about the different types of holes in our buckets. The first type is inevitable, it's permanent in everybody's lives, and that is the cost of living. The cost of living hole may be small or may be large, depending on our lifestyle. It's rent, money, food, healthcare, all of the things that are essential to live. That's the cost of living hole. You can control the size of the cost of living hole by deciding where you live, how much to pay, how much you eat, etc. The next type of hole is called the trade-off hole. A trade-off hole is almost as necessary as the cost of living, but not needed to live. Trade-off holes are when you spend money to do something that helps benefit the other buckets. If you're spending money to go and hang out with a friend, you're filling your relationship bucket. That is a trade-off spending, trade-off hole. If you're spending money to go to the gym because that helps you exercise, get healthier, that is a trade-off hole. Trade-off holes aren't necessary to keep you alive, but they are necessary to keep you happy, because you may need to spend money to fill the other buckets. The next type of hole is called the luxury hole. Luxury holes are when you spend money to upgrade on an item that may be necessary or may not be necessary. For instance, if you have a car and you want to spend money on a car, you want to spend it on a Mercedes instead of another less expensive car, that is a luxury hole. The difference is a luxury hole. You want to buy a watch, so you need to tell time, but you buy a Rolex or a name brand watch or a more expensive watch just because you like it, or just because it helps with your image. That is a luxury hole. Same as clothing. If you're buying name brand clothing, then it is a luxury hole. The next type of hole is called a trap hole. I call it a trap hole because a lot of people fall into this trap, and it traps them to stay in their current states for a long time. It traps people who cannot afford to have what they spend on. And what's an example of a trap hole? It's also what I call stupid money. Trap holes are when you are delinquent on your bills and you have to pay penalties. Or if you don't follow street signs and you park your car illegally and you have to pay parking tickets. Or if you're not following traffic laws and you get pulled over and you have to pay a fine for what you did. These are all they're called trap holes because they're traps and they're unnecessary. Absolutely unnecessary. All you have to do is obey the law, follow directions, pay your bills on time. If you cannot pay your bills on time, then we have to discuss ways to receive gifts or ways to help. And it's a really touchy subject because some people cannot afford to pay certain things on time. Then what we do is we try our best to minimize spending until we absolutely have to. You go back to spend on trade-offs and not on luxuries. And it's there. There's a lot of places where you can plug up the upgrades in life. If you can't afford a lot of things, you want to plug the luxury holes up as much as you can. So those are the ways that we can plug up the holes. The most important hole to plug up is the trap holes because they're unnecessary and all they do is cause you to burn money. So if you can't afford a lot of things, try to plug up the trap holes first. Then the next type of hole to plug up would be your luxury holes. If your buckets are large and if you have a lot of assets, you can afford to have some of the luxury holes. And it's okay. Have those if you can afford it. But if you cannot, after plugging up the trap holes, you want to plug up the luxury holes. You don't want to upgrade into name brand items if your buckets are small. If your buckets are really, really small, then you want to plug up the trade-off holes temporarily to fill up your bucket. When you have enough, then you can allow yourself the trade-off spendings. Trade-off spendings are necessary for happiness because it helps fill your other buckets. So I would not try to plug up those holes too long. Work on filling up your buckets until you have just enough. Then you can allow the trade-off holes. So I hope that you've understood the difference between the multiple types of faucets and know that the best types to have are the continuous flows. Try to work hard in the direct flow faucets in the beginning through jobs, etc. But work towards having multi-flow faucets and continuous flow faucets. Then, while filling up your bucket, think about the different types of holes that you have. Plug up the trap holes immediately and try to plug up the luxury holes if you cannot afford to spend on the upgrades. Those are the ways that many people keep their buckets small without knowing how to fill it up because they're working hard. They're filling up their buckets with direct flow or even multi-flow faucets, but they have too many trap holes in their bucket and their luxury holes are too big. So once you've understood how the dynamics of the buckets work in your financial situation, then you can easily fill it up very fast. Next time, I'll talk about the health bucket. Until then, please stay safe and healthy.